All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking a pretty fascinating journey straight into the hidden machinery of life. We're going to explore two fundamentally different but deeply connected worlds that you find in the lab. On one hand, we've got the highly dynamic, constantly moving world of reacting enzymes, and on the other, the static, structural world of biological matter, like DNA.
But it really brings up the ultimate laboratory puzzle, right? How on earth do we measure what we literally can't see? Whether you're talking about an invisible enzyme firing off a million reactions a second, or just a microscopic strand of DNA floating in a tiny drop of water, biochemists have had to invent some incredibly brilliant ways to quantify the invisible. This is absolutely the bedrock of modern biological science, and today we're going to see exactly how they do it.
Section 1. Quantifying biological systems.
So to actually understand biological systems, scientists basically have to evaluate two core things. First up is dynamics, meaning how fast are these reactions actually happening? That's the whole realm of enzyme kinetics. Second is statics, as in how much physical material is actually sitting right in front of us. That's DNA quantification. We're going to tackle the dynamic action of enzymes first, and then pivot right into the static existence of DNA.
Section 2. Enzyme dynamics and kinetics. Okay, let's dive into this. How do we measure a dynamic reaction? Well, while structural biology gives us this beautiful but entirely static snapshot of an enzyme, kinetics offers a live-action movie. It's the quantitative study of reaction rates. We're measuring a molecule's raw catalytic power and seeing how it adapts to changes, like shifts in substrate concentration or the presence of inhibitors. It basically tells us how the engine actually runs when you turn the key.
And to understand that biological engine, we need a few key metrics. The first one is Vmax, or maximum velocity. You can think of this as the absolute theoretical maximum speed of the reaction. Picture an enzyme that is completely, fully saturated with substrate. At this plateau, literally every single available enzyme in your solution is bound up and working at its absolute max capacity. Throwing more substrate in at this point, totally pointless. It won't make it go any faster.
Next up, we have Km, which is the Michaelis constant. This is the exact substrate concentration you need for the reaction velocity to hit exactly half of that Vmax we just talked about. So why does this matter? Well, it's an incredibly crucial indicator of an enzyme's efficiency. It essentially tells us how good the enzyme is at finding and binding its target when resources are running low. Now, when you bring these variables together, you get the legendary Michaelis-Menten equation, proposed way back in 1913, and honestly, it is still the mathematical cornerstone of biochemistry today. It brilliantly links your initial reaction velocity directly to the concentrations of the substrate in the enzyme using Vmax and Km. It takes all this incredibly complex biological behavior and turns it into one elegant, solvable formula.
But, this math really hinges on a two-step process. Enzymes bind to substrates really quickly, but then they convert them slowly. That second, much slower step, that acts as a bottleneck. Think of it exactly like a factory assembly line. If the packaging department is slower than the manufacturing side, the whole factory can only move at the speed of the packagers, right? In our cells, this exact bottleneck is what we call the rate-limiting step.
Section 3. Measuring DNA with light.
Now let's completely shift gears to statics and step into a highly cinematic experiment presented by our theoretical guide, Dr. Chem. I want you to imagine the lights dimming. Dr. Chem steps up and holds a test tube containing a completely invisible strand of DNA. To actually find it, Dr. Chem shines a highly specific, focused beam of ultraviolet light right through the liquid at exactly 260 nanometers. Because as it turns out, the building blocks of DNA absorb light perfectly at this very specific wavelength. It is quite literally our flashlight in the dark. Inside Dr. Chem's cinematic experiment, we're relying heavily on the Beer-Lambert law. It gives us this beautifully simple, almost magical conversion factor. If Dr. Chem's spectrometer reads an absorbance of 1.0 at that 260 nanometer wavelength, boom, it perfectly equates to a concentration of exactly 50 micrograms per milliliter of pure double-stranded DNA. It's this incredibly reliable empirical rule that finally lets us weigh the invisible.
Section 4. The contamination complication. But of course, here is the massive plot twist in Dr. Chem's experiment. The biological soup we actually extract this DNA from, it is a chaotic mess. Proteins absorb light super strongly at 280 nanometers. Salts and organics, they hit at 230. But the real kicker here? RNA absorbs at 260 nanometers. Yep, the exact same wavelength as our target DNA. These are basically invisible hijackers just hiding in the light.
So, the central flaw in this experiment is that UV light is totally blind to identity. It doesn't know what it's looking at. It just enthusiastically counts everything absorbing at 260 nanometers. Meaning, if your sample is packed with RNA, your DNA concentration reading is going to falsely skyrocket. And guys, this is a critical laboratory crisis. Overestimating your DNA yield can severely compromise highly sensitive downstream applications, like dropping thousands of dollars on next-generation genetic sequencing only for it to fail.
Section 5. Checking purity with ratios.
So how does Dr. Kim go about diagnosing this contamination? Through some very clever mathematics. By comparing the absorbance at 260 nanometers directly to the absorbance at 280 nanometers, we create what's called a purity ratio. A perfectly pure DNA sample is going to yield a ratio right between 1.8 and 2.0. Drop below 1.8, yeah, you've got protein dragging you down. Spike above 2.0, you've likely got chemical contamination, like phenol just left over from your extraction process.
And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world application. When Dr. Collum runs this through a microplate reader, the data looks beautiful. The linear relationship between UV absorbance and DNA concentration holds up perfectly. Well, until it doesn't. If you look closely, you can see the limits of the instrument. Standard UV absorbance just bottoms out and loses reliability at around 8 micrograms per milliliter. So, what happens when we need to measure something much, much smaller than that?
Section 6, the fluorescence alternative.
Well, if we pit the two main methods against each other, the differences are pretty stark. UV spectrometry is like your everyday, casual workhorse. It's incredibly fast, and you don't need any extra consumables. But as we just saw, it's vulnerable to counting every single 260 nanometer absorber in the tube. Fluorometry, on the other hand, is the precision sniper. It uses target-specific dyes that only bind to exactly what you want, like double-stranded DNA, and it completely ignores free nucleotides and RNA.
And the results of this precision are just staggering. It extends our quantification abilities all the way down into microscopic realms. Where UV maxed out around 8 micrograms, fluorescence can accurately detect double-stranded DNA down to a mind-bending 121 picograms per milliliter. I mean, that is an absolute game-changer for incredibly low concentration samples.
Today, technology gives us some truly incredible tools for both of these methods. Modern UV spectrophotometers actually use advanced chemetric software to mathematically identify and subtract the absorbance of contaminants, so they give you a corrected DNA result. Meanwhile, fluoridometers utilize this insanely clever chemistry where their specialized dyes literally do not light up until they are physically locked into your target DNA. It's brilliant.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider this. From tracking the dynamic speed of a single enzyme to isolating the microscopic weight of static DNA in Dr. Chem's cinematic experiment, our future heavily depends on these measurements. As we push the absolute boundaries of targeted medicine, how will perfecting our measurement of the invisible unlock the next great biological revolution? The answers to tomorrow's biggest medical questions are waiting right there in the tiniest, most precisely measured drops of liquid we have today. Keep exploring.